Hello everyone, welcome to another video. If you're new here, my name is Tori. I am a work from home mom to an 18-month-old and I'm currently, you can't see the belly, but I am 7 months pregnant. I am 28 and a half weeks and I'm officially in my third trimester, which is such a crazy thought. I can't believe I'm in my third trimester, but also at the same time, this pregnancy has gone by so slow. Let's get into this second trimester update. Starting off strong. If you didn't watch my first trimester vlog, which kind of detailed like in real time everything I was going through in the first trimester, I had HG this time around, which is hyperemesis gravidarum, which is characterized as severe vomiting in pregnancy. So at least 3 times a day. I had it in my first pregnancy with my daughter. I had it much worse this time around, and I was caring for my toddler. And like I mentioned earlier, I am a work from home mom, so I was working from home full time, taking care of my toddler, and I was throwing up like at least 5 times a day. And then it got to the point around, I know this is first trimester recap a little bit, but at around 10 weeks, I had not kept food or water down for like 3 days, like not a droplet of water. And then on the morning of that third day, I called my doctor and I was like, hey, I'm literally suffering. I haven't kept food or water down. I feel so intensely hungry and weak, and I just keep throwing up bile. So at that point, they made me go to urgent care. I had to get IV fluids. They did labs. They made sure there was nothing else going on. And then they prescribed me Zofran. So the Zofran, like after a few days of consistently taking it every 6 hours, like it's prescribed, I started to feel better. Of course, like you have that nausea feeling all day, but like I wasn't like getting sick, which was the whole battle, really, was like the fact that I couldn't keep anything down. And of course I had like strong food aversions and everything like that. And all of that carried into my second trimester. Some women wake up on week 14 when they're entering their second trimester, like new women. I did not. It was just like every other day, which is what happened in my first pregnancy as well. So I wasn't so surprised when I was still getting sick well into my second trimester. But around 20 weeks, I started to consistently feel a little bit better while still taking the Zofran. I was still getting sick occasionally, but it wasn't like every day like it was before. And then obviously over the time of my second trimester, I did get a little bit better. And I haven't gotten sick in about 2 weeks now, but I have moments all the time, like yesterday and today, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna throw up, and then I don't. I wouldn't classify myself as having HG anymore. I haven't had to take the Zofran in about a week, and I'm very grateful for that because I don't like to be on meds unnecessarily, but it was very necessary for the beginning part of my pregnancy, which I do want to add. I mentioned in one of my videos, I think it was my first trimester recap video, that Zofran had risks associated with taking it. One OB said that to me. She said that to me. Like I wasn't just like spewing information I saw online. She said that to me. And then every OB I've seen since then, because like my practice has a lot of different doctors, has dispelled that and said, actually, the research on that is not very good. It's very akin to what the research is on Tylenol, which is not very good. In fact, one of my MFMs at my maternal fetal medicine doctor even laughed when I said, like, should I be off of it at a certain point? She was like, that study is not worth your time. Take your Zofran if you have to. So I did want to add that little editor's note that if you have to take your Zofran, don't feel guilty of it. I certainly do not want to add to any stigma around having to take medicine while you're pregnant. Of course, only take medicine prescribed to you that you spoke about with your OB. My second biggest symptom that I've had is heartburn. I mentioned it like a few months ago in a vlog, how I was awoken out of my sleep at like 5 a.m. to like what felt like gas or like something, heartburn, trapped between my shoulder blades. And I literally was like moaning in pain on the floor, like debating whether or not I should go to the ER. Like I was in pain and I like could not go back to sleep. I was crying. I was throwing up. And what I had for dinner the night before was a barbacoa bowl from Chipotle, which is so greasy and fatty, and there was queso involved. And like, I think it was just literally too much for my body, and which in my first pregnancy, once the morning sickness and the food aversions were gone, I could eat anything. I was like a tank. I could eat anything. It wouldn't bother me. This time around, I can't really eat greasy foods. I have to be very careful with when I consume greasy foods, how much of it, how greasy. Yeah, that started at around 20 weeks. I don't remember the exact week when like that attack happened, but I started doing some research, aka Googling, and some of the things pointed towards this could be a gallbladder attack. And I was like, uh-oh. A lot of the symptoms of a gallbladder attack are very similar to what I experienced. And then a couple days later, I had a sandwich that had a lot of oil on it. That one also triggered a similar attack, but it wasn't as bad. And it was just basically how I would describe it is like very, very, very severe indigestion. But like I felt it in my back between my shoulder blades. And the placement of that is what kind of sounded the alarm for me. So I called my OB. Yeah, of course this happened over a weekend. So I called my OB on a Monday and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. Should I come in? What should I do? So they had me come in, checked me out. And while the doctor's talking to me about my symptoms, talking to me about like, okay, you're going to get like this ultrasound on your kidneys and this ultrasound on your gallbladder and everything like that, he like is listening to my heart and he goes, did you know that you have a heart murmur? And I was like, what? I came in asking for answers on one thing and I left with even more questions on another thing. So the weeks following that, I had my ultrasound for my kidneys and then I had a follow-up with my doctor. And for that scenario with the like kidney, gallbladder, liver problem, they said everything looked good. They said they saw some signs of kidney fullness. My doctor said it was very normal in pregnancy and like if I'm having any weird symptoms to like let them know, but like that was something that happened during pregnancy. So to not be too concerned about that, but it wouldn't cause what was happening in my upper back. So they basically were just like, don't eat greasy foods, take Pepcid if you have to. And so I've just been avoiding greasy foods and I haven't had to take the Pepcid yet. I've just been kind of suffering through it when I do have heartburn, which I don't know why I do that. But yeah, so I know that my heartburn kind of came and went throughout my third trimester. But as far as the second trimester, it kind of tapered off at the end. I am starting to feel like it's coming back a little bit in the third trimester, but I can talk about that in my third trimester recap. I was referred to a cardiologist. I went to the cardiologist and he was like, what it sounded like to him, based on the EKG coming back completely normal and like what it sounded like to him, since I think he said the left side of my heart, and he said it was a physiologic murmur. I don't know. I think that's what he said. And what he explained to it was some pregnant women, because of the increase in blood flow, they can develop like heart murmurs that should go away once you're not pregnant anymore. Once your blood volume goes down, you basically have 50% more blood in your body when you're pregnant. And so he said for some women it can cause them to have heart murmurs, which if you've been following along, for my first pregnancy, I had to go to the cardiologist as well because I was experiencing my heart skipping a beat, some flutters, and they basically were like, no, you're good, you're normal. And that was it. So they didn't detect a heart murmur. I saw a different cardiologist this time and he picked up on it. I suspect I had it the first time and that cardiologist I think was fired from the practice. I don't know why. So I actually think that I did have it my first pregnancy and they just didn't catch it. And then now I have it again. So I have an echocardiogram actually this coming Wednesday so that they can confirm that it is that type of heart murmur that like should go away, just like a blood volume thing. But I am glad I'm getting it checked out because like I will be laying down completely flat and I will be able to like feel my heartbeat. And my doctor said that it's because like for me while I'm pregnant, my heart is like beating so tightly and all of the blood volume, it creates this like murmur, which is like a sound, he said. So I'm hoping I go in for that echo and they're like, yep, you're good, good to go. Because sometimes I'm like, I've been laying down for 15 minutes. Why is my heart beating out of my chest? So hopefully that checks out. Hopefully everything is good with that because you don't want heart problems going into labor. That's probably a recipe for disaster. So yeah, that's what's going on with my heart as of now. By the way, the doctor said I didn't have to do anything differently. He just suggested that I try to have at least 60 ounces of water a day and that I try to avoid stress. But as far as like exercise and stuff like that, he was like, you're good to go. But like I do still try to like take it easy because I don't think my heart beating out of my chest is necessarily a good thing, which leads me into my next symptom. Exhaustion. I had the first trimester exhaustion probably because I wasn't able to keep food or water down and I was just literally malnourished. But also just like you're just overall exhausted in your first trimester and it carried into my second trimester. And I never fully, like, you know how they say, like, oh, in your second trimester, you get this, like, burst of energy. I never got that. I continue to need to have daily naps after work up until, like, about a month ago. And then as of the last few days, I've been feeling myself, like, being exhausted at, like, 3 p.m. I went to bed 2 nights ago at 8:30 after putting my daughter down because of how tired I've been, which I know that daylight savings and it getting dark at literally like 3:30 probably doesn't help with that, but I never got that second trimester burst of energy. My exhaustion has basically continued this whole time. Okay, so that's basically it as far as my symptoms. Now I'm going to talk about what I never stopped talking about all throughout my first pregnancy, and what I will probably also never stop talking about throughout this pregnancy: intrauterine growth restriction. I feel like such a broken record talking about this because I talked about it so much in my first pregnancy and in those videos, and I'm talking about it so much throughout this pregnancy, but it determines a lot, and it also is something that changes so much over time. So let's get into it. At my 20-week anatomy scan, everything came back perfect. She looked great. Everything looked perfect, except she was measuring in the 12th percentile. Which, if you have never had a very small baby, then you wouldn't know any of this. So I'm going to try to give a synopsis. And if you do know all of this, you're just going to have to sit through it, maybe skip a few seconds ahead. I don't know. So basically, my OB refers you to perinatal office, which is basically like maternal fetal medicine. It's what you might hear that referred to online as like the MFM, for your anatomy scans and any growth scans you need. I was very familiar with this perinatal office because I had to go weekly in my first pregnancy from 26 weeks pregnant to when I had my daughter at 37 weeks because she was growth restricted. She had iugr, which what I said earlier, it's intrauterine growth restriction. And it's basically when your baby is measuring less than the 10th percentile, so 9th percentile and lower. At the 20-week anatomy scan, they said that she was measuring in the 12th percentile, and anything 20th and below, they have you come back for a growth scan 4 weeks from your anatomy scan. So I had my anatomy scan at 20 weeks. I came back at 24 weeks. At that growth scan at 24 weeks, she dropped down to the 8th percentile, which meant that she was officially growth restricted. This was another high-risk pregnancy. I was going to have to come weekly. And at the weekly routine appointments, they do Dopplers, and they check for practice breaths, and they check the fluid around the baby, they check the heart rate, they check the heart and the heartbeat, all of that. And then every 3 weeks, they do a growth ultrasound. They check where the baby's at. And then if it's still below the 10th and they're still considered growth restricted, you go every week to do the Dopplers, which the Dopplers are blood flow from the cord placenta to the baby through the umbilical cord. Basically how the doctors explain it to me is it's like the umbilical cord's like blood pressure, which can kind of tell them whether or not the baby's getting the nutrients it needs from the placenta. And with my first pregnancy, every single Doppler, every single routine appointment, she was passing with flying colors. Every single time it was just, she's measuring small. So, and that's how it was this time. So we had our growth scan at 24 weeks, and then at 25, 20, and 26, we just had normal Doppler appointments where they checked the blood flow. Everything looked great. The fluid looked great. The baby was doing practice breaths. Like, everything was good. And then at 27 weeks, they did another growth scan. At that 27-week growth scan, which was in my last vlog, and I kind of glossed over it because I still haven't fully accepted it because I'm waiting for the results of that to change. But she went up in percentiles and is now measuring in the 11th percentile. This is from the doctor. She's no longer considered growth restricted, and as of now, I'm no longer high risk. But the 11th percentile is only 2 percentiles off from the 9th. So I am cautiously optimistic. It is a great sign because what brought the percentile up so much was that her abdomen grew to the 20th percentile. And with my first daughter, her abdomen was always like the smallest part of her body. It was always what was dragging the measurements down. So the fact that this baby had such a growth spurt in the abdomen and is now measuring in the 20th percentile for her abdomen, it gives me hope that maybe she'll continue to not be growth restricted. So that's what we found out at 27 weeks. I have another growth scan at 31 weeks. So if they're not considered growth restricted, the next growth scan is 4 weeks away. So I still have like 2.5 weeks until that growth scan. And I'm so nervous for that one because it could also determine like how the rest of my pregnancy goes. So obviously that's good news. I'm in shock. I'm like almost not accepting it because I'm waiting for it to change at the next growth ultrasound. I'm waiting for them to say, actually, she's back down in the 9th or the 8th percentile. Like, you're growth restricted again, you're high risk again. They were like, considering your past pregnancy with that baby being growth restricted the entire time, and considering this baby has been growth restricted, even though now they're not, we still want you to come back weekly to check the fluid levels and to check her practice breaths. Don't love having to go weekly still to just check 2 things. Like, they don't even take my blood pressure. They don't have me leave a sample. They don't check my weight, which is what they used to do when I was considered high risk. And now they just have me like sit in the waiting room. They call me back, 5-minute ultrasound. And then the last few times I've gone, they haven't given me a picture of the baby because she was so far head down and facing my hip bone that they couldn't get a picture of her face. So I've left the last 3 times without a picture. So I'm like, I'm not even getting pictures from this. So we'll see what happens at that next growth ultrasound. I will also keep you guys updated with that in my videos as far as like how she's measuring, how things are going. But it is hard, like there with her being growth restricted, it's not just, oh, she's small, like whatever. There's increased risks with being under the 10th percentile, and there's statistics that are scary as far as like outcomes of pregnancies with your baby being growth restricted. But because I'm only 4'10", I'm a small woman, I come from small women, it's not that much of a shock that my babies are also small. But like still having a low birth weight baby, no matter if you're small or not, is still just a scary thing. Especially since we'll be welcoming this baby at the height of the flu season. But yeah, that is basically my second trimester recap. I'm about to start editing this video and I realized I didn't mention some of the biggest symptoms I've been having this trimester. So apologies for the change in lighting and everything. It is the end of the day. I'm about to fold like 4 loads of laundry. And I'm tired and I've had a full day. I'm very tired and I just want to watch my Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Totally didn't mention the back pain. The back pain started around 20 weeks and it has just gotten worse and worse over time. And like I last time had sciatic pain a little bit in the beginning of my second trimester for a few weeks, and then it just went away. Don't know what happened. But this time it's not even sciatic pain, I don't think. Both sides of my back. It's like this. I don't know what part of my body that is, but every time I've had an ultrasound, the tech is always like, oh my gosh, she is so low, like your poor pelvis, you must be in so much pain. And I'm like, is that what that back pain is? Because whenever I picture the pelvis, I always picture it like up front, but like, is that like where my hip bone is, like, or my joints? Like, I have no idea. I'm sure I could Google it or like ask like, hey, what's this? Like, what are these 2 points in my lower back that hurt so bad? Maybe it is my sciatic. I don't know. I thought that was more like your butt region. I don't know. Probably get worse because I'm still only 28 weeks. But yeah, that has been bad. And the second one I forgot to mention was round ligament pain. I had that in the beginning of my second trimester with my first daughter, and it was around 15 to like, I would say like 17 weeks I had round ligament pain, and then it went away and then I didn't really have it again. I have had it consistently, and it's not all the time. It's just like when I get it, I know I've like done a little bit too much activity and it hurts, and I have to like sit down and like rub my lower belly on like either side, and it's not cramping, it's not like in the middle, it's like off to the side. Like I know it's round ligament pain and it hurts. It feels like this stretching pain. Those are the 2 symptoms I completely forgot to mention, and those are also 2 symptoms that will probably just continue to happen this rest of the pregnancy. I feel like I didn't mention this either, but the kicks obviously have gotten stronger and stronger over time. I had a posterior placenta with my first daughter, and I started feeling kicks at 17 weeks, and then I started to consistently feel kicks like throughout the day and every day, starting at 19 weeks with her. And they got stronger and stronger over time. This time I started feeling movement at like 15 weeks and then consistently at like 18 weeks. So I felt movement at 15 weeks. And this time I have an anterior placenta, and everyone says that you don't feel the baby as much when you have an anterior placenta because there's it's almost like there's this cushion. How my doctor explained it was it's as if there's a pillow, and the baby's, when there's an anterior placenta, the baby's punching the pillow, and so you don't feel it as strong. But then as the baby gets bigger, you'll be able to feel those punches and kicks just the same. I felt the baby's kicks so much stronger, so much earlier. I felt her earlier. I felt really strong kicks earlier. I felt the kicks consistently earlier, and this time I'm supposed to have not felt it as much. So I don't know what the story is with that. I'm very grateful that I can feel her because it's obviously reassurance. And now that I'm 28 weeks, I have to count the kicks, and that is so important once you hit your third trimester, of counting the kicks and making sure that throughout the day that you're feeling the baby and it's their normal pattern. That's my little spiel. I think I've included everything now. And back to the better lighting, better makeup, better setting. I think this is going to be a standalone video. I was going to tack it on to the Thanksgiving prep video, but I think that would be too much. So this is just going to be a standalone video. I didn't film a second trimester update with my first, but because I got well into my third trimester when I realized oh, I never filmed that. And then I just kind of never did. And then I filmed a third trimester recap where I mentioned stuff that happened in my second trimester. But I didn't film a standalone for that, so I thought I would film a standalone video for that today. Hoping everything checks out with my heart. Hoping this baby continues to not be growth restricted. Oh, that's what I was saying. So if this baby continues to not be growth restricted, my OB says that she still thinks that the perinatal office, the MFM, she still thinks their recommendation would be for me to be induced sometime in 39 weeks and that they still might not want me to go to 40 weeks. Which, if they induce me sometime 39, I still have the opportunity to go into labor naturally. I mean, this is my second pregnancy. This is my second baby. And they say that you go a little earlier with your second. So I was induced at 37 weeks. So I don't want to go any earlier than that. But I'm still hoping that I'll be able to be given the opportunity to go into labor naturally if they induce me at some time in 39 weeks. But if this baby drops below the 9th but stays between the 3rd and the 9th percentile, they'll still let me go to 38 or 39 weeks. But as far as if it's 38 or if it's 39, that will be somewhat of a last minute recommendation, probably around 34 or 35 weeks. They'll let me schedule my induction. So yeah. And then if she drops below the 3rd percentile and is in the 2nd or lower, then it's 37 weeks, which is what happened with my first baby, but we're hoping that doesn't happen this time. If I have to be induced, I would like to be induced closer to my due date, as close to my due date as possible. Like I said, so that I can have the opportunity to go into labor naturally. But even if I don't, any amount of time that this baby can still safely cook inside of me is good. But the reason they took her out, my first daughter out so early, is because they weren't sure if it was quite safe anymore because she was dropping in percentiles rapidly. So hoping that doesn't happen this time. But that's my second trimester update. I'm hoping the third trimester is a lot smoother. I'm starting to nest. We got the dresser / changing table in. Zach is going to probably put that together soon. We painted the nursery. I picked out the rug that I want, which it's a $300 West Elm rug, but I want it and it's really cute, so we might get it. The crib is coming in less than 2 weeks. That's being delivered, and they're assembling it for us. We're gonna start buying decorations and furniture. But yeah, anyway, that's it. If you enjoy pregnancy videos, if you enjoy baby updates, if you enjoy vlogs, if you're a mom like I am, if you have or are going to have 2 under 2 like me, be sure to subscribe and follow along the journey. I'm going to have a lot of nesting videos. I'm going to have a lot of holiday videos, a lot of holiday vlogs. And yeah, I'm excited to start doing fun things for the Christmas and fun things as far as getting ready for this baby and nesting. And yeah, so thank you for listening to me talk for like probably like 25 plus minutes, maybe 30. Oh my gosh, should I show you guys an ultrasound? Hold on. Oh, here's a bump update. Oh my goodness, I'm sweating. The most recent one I have is from 25 weeks. Look at how cutie patootie she is. And then this one's actually like pretty good. I feel like this one actually gives you a pretty good look at like what she looks like. Sometimes I'll look at my daughter and be like, you look like your whatever week ultrasound right now. The 24 week. Look at how cutie patootie she is. All right, now I'm done. That's it. Goodbye.